To give people an idea of my sense of humor, I thought this would be an interesting video to recount the story from my junior year in high school where we had to take speech class, and obviously I failed. And in honor of that, I'm wearing this sweater that I bought in high school. This sweater is probably like 32 years old or more. My junior year in high school was 1990, 1991. Yes, I still have this old sweater. So we were required to take speech class, and this one week we had the theme of oral interpretation. So every kid in the class went to the library, got a book of poems, and just went up to the podium, read the poem, and would say, "Oh, I like this poem because of this or that." The only student who did not do that was me. So I had these two books that I read from, and they were called Truly Tasteless Jokes. So obviously, I knew that I couldn't be in high school telling like these jokes, which I can't even say most of them. So I kind of like thought, oh, well, maybe I won't tell the truly tasteless jokes. I'll just tell the kind of tasteless ones. For this particular speech, instead of a classroom, we went to the auditorium and we had to stand at the podium. I just looked online and in my old yearbook to see if I could find a photo of the auditorium to put as the green screen behind me, but I couldn't find it. So just picture like a 15-year-old me standing in front of the front row of the auditorium, not on the stage, standing at a podium, holding these books, laughing so much, trying to read these jokes. Not necessarily that they were so funny, but that I couldn't believe that I was actually telling these tasteless jokes in high school. From what I remember, some of my classmates were laughing, but I think some of them were kind of in disbelief, like, "Tom, what are you doing?" Which is a recurring theme in my life. So I no longer have those books. I don't know why I threw them out, but I did save the jokes in my Word document with my jokes, and I have not read them in, I guess, the like 32 years or whatever since I told them. So I'm about to read them again for the first time in over 30 years, and I thought I'd do it on camera. So here we go. So I walk up to the podium, and I don't remember if I said, "Oh, these are truly tasteless jokes" or what, but I just said that I'm going to tell jokes. These are not my jokes. These were from the book. Why can't Helen Keller have kids? Because she's dead. Little Herbie had been blind since birth, so one night before bed, his mother said to him, "Herbie, tomorrow is a very special day. If you pray extra hard, when you wake up in the morning, you'll be able to see." So he prayed and prayed. When his mother came in to wake him up the next morning, he shrieked, "Mommy, Mommy, I still can't see." "I know," his mother said. "April Fools." That one went over well. Did you know Disney World offers rides for the disabled? The blind can rent seeing eye kangaroos. Yeah, this was before people got canceled. One day, a priest was walking down the street when he noticed a young boy throwing a tantrum with his mother, unable to control him. So the priest walked over to the boy, pulled out his crucifix, and said, "This boy used to misbehave in public places too." This was not Catholic school. I went to Catholic school through fourth grade, but I would never tell these at Catholic school. One day, a man was sunbathing on a nude beach when he saw a girl coming towards him, so he placed a newspaper over his private parts. She said, "What's under the newspaper?" He responded, "A little birdie, and I don't want it to fly away." So he figured he had squelched her curiosity and took a nap. When he woke up, he was in the hospital. He blinked his eyes and asked what had happened. So the little girl stepped in and said, "Well, while you were sleeping, your bird spit at me, so I broke its neck, crushed its eggs, and set its nest on fire." This is in high school. The teacher is sitting in the back of the room, and we'll get to that in a second. Oh my God. So this next one was the second to last one I told. This guy goes to the doctor and finds out he has tapeworm. So the doctor tells him to come in every morning for the next 2 weeks with a hard-boiled egg and a lemon cookie. So he does, and the doctor shoves the egg up the guy's butt, followed by the cookie. After 2 weeks, the doctor says to bring the egg and a hammer the next day. So he does, and the doctor shoves the egg up the guy's butt and waits. 5 minutes later, the worm sticks its head out the guy's butt and says, "Where the hell's my damn cookie?" And wham, that's the end of the tapeworm. So after that innocent joke, at the back of the auditorium was my teacher, and he raises his hand and says, "Excuse me, Mr. Webster, you have to remember there are certain things that you can say at home that you can't say at school." And I thought, I would never say these at home. My parents would kick me out. So, I mean, he may have said one or two other things, but I didn't like get the impression that he wanted me to totally stop. Just that I kind of had to stop the kind of tasteless jokes and I don't know, do the not tasteless jokes. So I thought, oh my God, what am I going to do? So I went through the book and I looked and I found this one joke that said, when it's 10 o'clock in the US, they say, do you know where your kids are? When it's 10 o'clock in France, they say, do you know where your husband is? When it's 10 o'clock in England, they say, do you know where your wife is? When it's 10 o'clock in Poland, they say, do you know what time it is? And like nobody laughed after that. I think they were so scared for me, and that joke isn't that funny. So I freaked out in my mind and thought, oh my God, help me. But I swear, within 1 second, the fire drill alarm went off. This was in winter, it was snowing out. So I was like, why is the school doing a fire alarm in winter when it's snowing out? So we had to exit the auditorium, and outside, like the teacher was nowhere near me. But my classmates were like, oh my God, that's so funny. Are you going to keep going when we go back inside? And I was like, no. Like, I got in trouble. So luckily, it was towards the end of the class when we finally went inside, and it was just a given that I was not going to return to the podium. Then, like a week later, the way this teacher would give us our grades, somehow he had our social security numbers and he would put them on a paper and he would pass it around from one person to the next, and you would look for your social security number and then look for your grade. And so pretty much everybody in the class saw that I got a 68, but I'm glad that I did it because I consider it to be my first stand up performance. Although I hate doing stand up because I get so anxious. I mean, it was a life experience that, like, who does that? Apparently, I do. To this day, I have no idea how the fire alarm went off. The only thing I can think of is one of my classmates may have come to class late and been at the back of the auditorium and seen me struggling and been like, oh God, Webster needs my help. And he was the one who pulled the fire alarm. But I've never asked him and I'm not in touch with him anymore. But I'm curious to know how that fire alarm went off when I said, oh my God, please help me. The kids in my class complimented me afterwards, and it kind of gave me inspiration to continue writing my own jokes. And I didn't do stand up for another like 9 years after that when I went into New York City. But I will always remember this performance as my first comedy performance. It was fun just reminiscing about that story and reading those jokes again. So hopefully you enjoyed it and got a good laugh out of it. Thanks for watching.